With the extra point, this is Erik McKinney, joined by Greg Katz. Greg, we have a couple games left at this point in the season with all the twists and turns and ups and downs. Your confidence level that USC can and will win the Pac-12 conference?
I would say that it's probably 80% that they'll win the whole thing. There's nothing to suggest that on paper this team shouldn't be able to do it. It's whether they have the patience on offense and defense to strategically and schematically go against what an opponent gives them, and do they take advantage of it on both sides of the ball. Um, you know, they own all the tiebreakers for the teams they've played. I mean, they've already beaten, three teams, basically, that are in the conference. We don't know what's going to happen with Washington State. We don't know what's going to happen with UCLA, and we don't know what the other teams are going to do. But in terms of just USC getting to the title game and winning it, I think they stand as good a shot as anybody. I haven't backed off. I said they should do this conference undefeated. I think they should win the Pac-12 championship. I don't think they're the best game yet, or have peaked, or even approached their capabilities. And to be quite honest with you, two things are going to come into effect. COVID-19, we don't know what's happened. We don't even know if the Pac-12 game is going to be off on time, because we don't know if one of the two teams are going to come down with it. And it's also, I don't like to do this because I'm a former coach, because I that a lot of times doing the right thing when you're coaching your players, they just don't execute. But I do think there is scrutiny on the offensive side of USC's football team to see just how they're going to adjust to this constant, relentless 8 players back deep and daring SC to run. I think if SC runs and they decide that that's what they're going to do with some authority and maybe put in a player or two, I think that they could have really an unstoppable offense. But, you have to look at the teams SC plays the rest of the way, and to get into the championship game, SC has to be more balanced, in my opinion. If they have some sort of running game, I know that Clay Elton says we want to get 170 yards a game running wise. Well, that's not 119 like they had the other games, not like 93. And if they don't achieve that, they open themselves up to not achieving their ultimate goal, which I think they should achieve.
Yeah, I'm with you. I'm fairly confident that they win the whole thing now. And it sounds strange because the Utah game, again, we have talked about at times that this was not the Utah offense that maybe you expected. That offensive line got hit. It's very young, inexperienced, but USC able to beat Utah, and then you don't want it to erase all the struggles that they had against Arizona State and Arizona. So it feels weird to kind of say, oh, everything's fine. That Utah game erased all the worries, because you're still that team that probably shouldn't have beaten Arizona State and had to pull something out against Arizona. But if things start clicking, Washington State, UCLA, those are not. It's certainly not Alabama and Notre Dame that were on your schedule to start the season. And then you start looking at maybe who you could get from the north. And if it is Washington, I'd be fairly confident if I was USC playing a team that is so run heavy like Washington wants to be. I think that's a team that USC defensively would feel pretty comfortable going up against. I think it's kind of the, super dynamic quarterback, wide open offenses that can really burn you in a lot of different ways that might give USC trouble. But boy, just lining up with somebody and being physical against them, it feels like this defensive staff has kind of flipped that switch with the defense where they can do that. So if USC can take care of business like they should in the South, I really don't see, especially if the North team ends up maybe being Oregon somehow, they've already kind of shown that they're susceptible. So, it doesn't feel like maybe at the beginning of the season how it felt like the North team would be a big time challenge, specifically talking about Oregon there. It feels like USC can match up with anybody who might come out of the North right now. And you expect at that point in the season, USC is maybe rolling a little bit offensively if the big if they've kind of figured out offensively what to expect from teams defensively and figure out how to attack it. So I'm with you in thinking that despite how the season started, still looks pretty good for me for USC to wind up as Pac-12 champions at the end of this season.